The concept of pay to win is brought up a lot nowadays. This is partly because game companies are flirting with the line of what is and is not considered pay to win much more frequently, but also because we have gotten to a point of consumer fatigue where any small discrepancy between what is advertised and the reality that follows is fixated upon, because the AAA market has been sliding into a worse and worse relative condition over previous years. In the past, when a company said something very specific and then slightly deviated from that claim, it would be largely ignored. But today, when a company claims that microtransactions in their shop will be cosmetic only, and then implement even a very small, non-cosmetic functional item within that same shop, players take notice and immediately lash out. This is exactly what happened with Fallout 76 and its Atomic Shop. What was initially just a lazy cosmetic marketplace reselling assets from their previous Fallout games, fake discounted emote packs with mere thumbnail changes rather than emotes themselves, or simple blue paint skins, was adapted with a very specific update in which an item called repair kits were added. Repair kits allowed for items to be repaired on the fly, which is a common function necessary in the game to continue playing or utilizing your favorite gear, and they were sold for a price in the Atomic Shop. This is where the player base started to take issue. In truth, when it comes to Fallout 76, there have been numerous scandals and shortcomings. That was far from the first time that players were displeased with the game or its development team. But this was a moment where there was a tangible trail of commitments and quotes traced all the way back to Bethesda VP of Marketing Pete Hines, in which he confirmed many times that there would never be anything but cosmetic items in the Atomic Shop. The common belief is that Bethesda is working towards full pay-to-win mechanics incrementally after having been forced to scrap the outright pay-to-win structure pre-release as a result of the rising animosity towards loot box progression. It makes sense on a surface level. The card pack leveling bonuses and the way that perks are acquired is really reminiscent of Star Wars Battlefront 2, and it seems indicative of a system designed for packs to be used as the primary source of progression. But honestly, that is speculation and beside the point. The point is, Bethesda committed to one thing and then did another, even in just a small way. But now I want to look at their response and examine why this has become yet another example of manipulative behavior, because the justification provided is neither an explanation nor a defense. It is an outright push towards altering the public perception of what is and is not considered pay to win. In a PC Gamer article, Jeff Gardner was asked about the addition of repair kits to the Atomic Shop, and the wording here is very important. We believed the repair kits were a convenience item for people who didn't want to grind for adhesive and other things, he said, and it was just a way for them to basically shortcut game systems, definitely not pay to win. I will argue with anybody that repair kits makes you win at the game. First of all, you're not really competing with one another except for in PvP mode. We have all the information, how often people repair, what they repair, and again, you can repair in the game. It's just simply a strict convenience thing. That's my take on repair kits. This is a horrible response, but rather than focus on the discussion of why this response is inadequate and how similar games under this justification can also avoid the tag of pay to win, despite having numerous gameplay affecting features sold in their shop, Yongya has done an excellent job of that already in a recent video, I believe, I would like to focus my own discussion on why this is a deliberate attempt to alter the definition of what pay to win even is, because successfully doing so will lay the framework for an infinitely more complex monetization standard going forward, which is their ultimate goal. To really see how this explanation falls short, we have to decipher what pay to win really means in the mind of a player. Contrary to something precisely literal in an MMO or open world survival game, you cannot outright win that game. There is no win condition that dictates precisely actual victory. There is merely an infinite loop of sandbox activities. And knowing this, how then can we define pay to win? The answer is presented when we understand the concept of competitive progression. Since there is no literal finality of victory in an open world sandbox game, victory starts to be assigned to certain milestones or gameplay benchmarks that are decided on a social level by the players themselves. You cannot win at Minecraft, depending on the mode that is, but you can get a bunch of diamonds and make the house that you wanted to and achieve a large chunk of your own goals, which in a roundabout way equates to winning. In Fallout 76, you cannot win the game, but you can win individual PvP encounters. You can achieve your goals, acquire endgame gear, slay certain bosses, etc., etc., each holding a subjective level of social value, which can then be equated to competitive progression. If you are the first one of your friend group to complete a certain milestone or get a piece of gear, in an abstract way, you have won in some small capacity. And if you are able to progress faster and always be the strongest person with the most caps, the best loot or gear or whatever, you are in a competitive social sense winning. In light of no definitive win condition, this social competition of advancement becomes its own form of victory. An easy example to bring up is the high interest in server resets for a game like Rust, or new leagues in Path of Exile, or the first launch day of a brand new AAA title. Players absolutely love these moments because they present a level playing field. Even though there is no literal win condition for any of these games, that sense of equality where everyone can come out on top or be ahead in some capacity of the others, of their peers and their competitors, in the social competition of character progression, it is vastly appealing. The explanation given by Jeff Gardner when viewed through this lens is actually very sinister. Since we can draw a connection between progression and social victory for a large chunk of players, his justification for the repair kits, which states that they are merely a convenience feature which allows players to skip the grind, is no different than saying yes, they are pay to win because they let you accelerate progression. The last segment as well is indicative of a desire to totally reformat the definition of what pay to win even means, because doing so would allow publishers like Bethesda to monetize further with a decreased risk of backlash. It's just a way for them to basically shortcut game systems, definitely not pay to win. This is a contradictory statement as soon as we come to accept the fact that progression and speed are competitive evaluation tools for a lot of players. Circumventing game systems through paid alternatives is fundamentally problematic because it shows that they are constructing a product one way and then offering paid solutions to alter that experience. In a perfect world, this might not be an issue, but in the reality of AAA gaming, creating a product such that it will allow for paid experience boosts or convenience features which circumvent the balanced grinding can only lead to alteration of the product itself to incentivize the purchase of these microtransactions. There are numerous different examples to draw from. An easy one is Red Dead Redemption 2 Online. When the mode first launched, Gold was able to skip the grind for everything from horses to weapons, and acquiring it was unbelievably slow for normal activities. Not only that, but cash was restricted, normal currency in the game, experience was throttled, and it became a very obvious and predatory funnel to force players to buy gold and skip the leveling process required to unlock everything through traditional means. By Jeff Gardner's definition, however, not even this is pay to win because it is merely a convenience feature allowing players to circumvent game systems. The word convenience and the phrase pay to win are not mutually exclusive. Jeff Gardner is attempting to push forward an agenda wherein they incrementally increase the pay to win features while moving the goalpost of what is commonly perceived as pay to win, and if he is allowed to do so, and if the player base of any major title passively accepts this manipulation, it will negatively impact their experience and possibly the entire industry. Here's another way to look at it. Imagine a board game, but instead of a set finish line, it is an infinite loop. You just go around and around again and again. Whoever is furthest ahead is winning, but there is no outright game-concluding win condition. Now imagine that for real money, you can take little shortcuts that skip a square here and a space there, and you can do this constantly. So every time you roll the dice, you maybe get 1 or 2 extra spaces. At first, the gap between you and the other players is non-existent, but over time, it grows as a direct result of your purchased advantage. Eventually, you are extremely far ahead, and to some players, none of this will matter at all because they are personally enjoying their own journey around the board without a care in the world of what others are doing. To those players, I very pointedly say, you are a hero, never change, you are fantastic. But a basic human trait is peer competition, and leveraging peer-to-peer competition into the purchase of extremely innocuous items which circumvent game systems and grinding is an extremely lucrative monetization method. Bethesda is seeking to rewrite the understanding of pay to win, and we cannot let them do this. Let's not forget it was Bethesda who proposed and introduced the first verified Western example of microtransactions in the form of horse armor. These are not innocuous items or concepts. They are deliberately crafted narrative manipulations with a mindset to shift the Overton window. The Overton window, often referring to politics in this day and age, is a description of what is considered acceptable in public discourse. If you push past the boundary of what is considered acceptable within the Overton window, it results in negative ramifications, usually, typically. However, a gradual shift that realigns where the Overton window is actually focused when considering microtransactions and monetization allows for companies like Bethesda to raise the bar over time without being subjected to the same level of passionate disagreement that they would be if they were just to accelerate right from cosmetic-only microtransactions to blatant pay-to-win. We've seen examples of corporate speech and definition manipulation many times before, an immediate example being EA with its surprise mechanics. EA decided loot box now has a negative stigma attached to it, go figure, so they are merely trying to manipulate the descriptive wording of their product to call the boxes surprise mechanics. We can also see it with terms like per user spending, and whatever else comes down the pipeline in the future, because the ability to dictate what public perception even defines these mechanics as is invaluable in the pursuit of manipulating what consumers will tolerate or subject themselves to. But that's it for today. The point is, be aware of the underlying goal that these companies like Bethesda have, and do not necessarily take their manipulations lying down. It may seem like an encouragement of toxicity on my part, like, he's so negative all the time. But I disagree. It's an encouragement for consumers to stand up for their own rights, and defend the integrity of a product that they are truly passionate about. But that's it. I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, there are links down below. YouTube has now put me on some sort of decreased advertiser list because I'm brand unsafe or whatever. It was just a matter of time. It's not really unexpected. But as a result, consider checking out the Patreon, but I'll still produce the content regardless. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.